Shocking secrets. Life on a cargo ship in Alaska. The captain's rules will haunt you. The cold Alaskan wind sliced through the night, whipping against the hull of the cargo ship like a furious beast, eager to consume anyone brave or foolish enough to stand against it. Whispers of fear spread among the crew, tales of the captain's iron-fisted rules that lurked in the shadows, waiting for the wrong move. What happened when you disobeyed? Rumors flew faster than the seagulls overhead, unpredictable storms, missing crew members, and an ever-present, chilling feeling that something was terribly wrong. Down below decks, the faint glow of a single bulb barely illuminated the narrow corridor. The smell of salt and machine oil hung thick, stifling. Each step echoed in the stillness, but something deeper trembled beneath that silence. It wasn't just the sound of waves crashing outside, it was the heavy heartbeats of men who knew they were bound by secrecy. A crewman, Jake, could feel the weight of the captain's gaze even when he wasn't looking. It pressed down on him like a storm cloud, dark, heavy, and threatening to unleash chaos. One night, they gathered around a table, the flickering light casting eerie shadows. "You hear about old Tom?" A voice cracked. The grizzled veteran shook his head grimly. "He went missing a week ago. They say he crossed the captain." The collective unease washed over them, palpable and suffocating. They all knew what happened to those who defied the rules. Jake's hands trembled as he fiddled with his mug. Should he speak up? Reveal the truth about the whispers? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension in the room crackled, a palpable energy, thick enough to cut with a knife. No one dared mention the forbidden topics, the ghost stories tied to the ship's ancient timber, the rumors of sacrifices made for safe passage through treacherous waters. Each man shifted uncomfortably, knowing the captain's ear was always pressed against the walls, always listening, always watching. As the clock ticked into the deep hours of the night, the ship let out a groan, a sinister sound that echoed through the corridors. All eyes darted towards the narrow door leading to the bridge. Suddenly, a loud thud resonated throughout the ship, jolting everyone from their seats. Had they summoned the captain's wrath? Was it too late to turn back? As they exchanged terrified glances, Jake felt a knot in his gut. Whatever awaited them beyond that door, it could be a revelation, or a death sentence. Would they uncover the truth or become another ghost story whispered on the wind? The door to the bridge creaked open slowly, revealing darkness beyond that seemed to swallow the light from the flickering bulb. Jake stood frozen, the knot in his stomach tightening. His heart hammered against his ribs, demanding a release from this tension-filled episode. "Should we see what it is?" whispered Mikey, his voice shaking as he edged forward. The crew murmured uneasily, shifting their weight from foot to foot, exchanging fearful glances. They all felt at the invisible strings tying them to both fear and curiosity. The captain's authority loomed large, a specter that commanded respect, gripping each man with a mix of dread and intrigue. "I'm not going out there," Chuck announced too loudly. "Last time someone did, they didn't come back." The room went silent. A bead of sweat trickled down Jake's temple. Was it worth the risk of facing a rage that felt almost palpable? Or was it better to remain in the shadows of ignorance? Suddenly, another thud echoed, this time louder, brighter. This time, it felt like a warning. "Simon," Jake finally urged, his voice steadier than he felt. "If we don't check it out now, we'll just wonder what happened." With hesitation, the others followed, forming a loose line behind Jake as he stepped cautiously across the threshold. The bridge was dark, save for a dim display of instruments casting a cold light on the dust-laden controls. Outside, the world blurred with the rain and darkness, a sobering reminder of their isolation. The sea roared below, a relentless beast eager to drag anything forgotten into its depths. "Look!" Mikey called out, pointing towards the captain's chair. A dark shape slumped over it. Jake squinted, dread pooling in his gut. Was it the captain? Was he unconscious? As they crept closer, horror spread through the group like wildfire. The man sprawled over the control panel was not the captain but was dressed in a similar uniform, one of their own. It was old Tom, his lifeless body motionless, eyes staring into the abyss, waves of fear crashing over the men like the relentless tide outside. "Is he?" Chuck's voice faltered, the realization hitting them like a thunderclap. The smell of iron wafted through the air, and the crew swarmed toward him as if drawn by an unseen force. "He's gone," Jake murmured, unable to look away from Tom's blank expression. He felt nauseated, the weight of guilt and suspicion heavy on his shoulders. Suddenly, Jake's eyes darted to the control panel. A note was pinned beneath a switch. He reached for it, his hand trembling. The air around them grew heavy, like the calm before a storm. What did it say? Was it a warning? A confession? Each second stretched, every heartbeat echoing in their ears. "Get away from there!" A voice barked from the entrance. The captain stood, backlit by the corridor light, a figure of authority and menace. Every man froze, fear cascading over them like the icy spray of the pounding waves. "What have you done?" He stepped forward, eyes narrowing, caught between fury and a predatory calm. Jake's heart pounded. What would happen now that Tom was gone? Would they face the captain's wrath, or had they just awakened something far darker? "Please, Captain. We can explain," Jake stammered, fighting against the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. As shadows shifted in the corners of the room and the air thickened with dread, he knew that the truth was not just a whisper away but a crashing wave ready to engulf them all. What horror awaited them next? Would they emerge from this darkness or become part of its cruel tale? The captain's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "What are you standing around for? Get him up." Jake stumbled back, adrenaline surging through him, firing up his nerves. The captain's presence demanded more than just respect, it commanded fear. But Captain," Chuck stammered, his voice weak, Tom's dead." Each word felt like an accusation that hung heavily in the air, pulling the crew into a deeper pit of dread. A shadow passed across the captain's face. He took a measured step forward, fists clenched. The harsh overhead lights glinted off his uniform, but they couldn't illuminate the darkness swirling within him. "Dead?" he echoed, his voice low. "This isn't the time for panic. We need answers." Jake's eyes darted between the captain and Tom's body. He felt the rush of horror rise in his throat, a foul mix of fear and guilt. "What happened to him?" he asked, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Don't ask questions you want to like the answers to, Jake," the captain said sharply, a shine of something cold and dangerous in his gaze. The crew exchanged apprehensive looks, uncertainty radiating among them. "Look," Mikey interjected, attempting to seize control. "There's a note here. It could help." He stretched out a trembling hand towards the control panel, but the captain's glare pinned him in place. "Leave it," barked the captain. "We don't need what he wrote. We need to act. Get this body off the bridge. It's drawing too much attention. We're in the middle of nothing but water and darkness, we can't risk the storm picking him up." The urgency in the captain's tone was palpable, wrapping around them like a noose. Mikey and Chuck hesitated, but Jake found his resolve in the captain's authority. Nods of assent echoed through the crew as they scrambled forward, their fear temporarily overshadowed by the need to obey, but as they hoisted Tom's body, Jake caught the note once more. A jagged edge of curiosity pricked at him. "How can we trust what you say if we don't even know what is happening?" he dared ask. The captain stepped closer, anger igniting his eyes. "What you trust doesn't matter. What matters is that you follow orders." The tension crackled like static in the air, every man unsure if they were moving toward a resolution or deeper into the grip of chaos. As they finally maneuvered Tom's body out of the bridge, the storm raged outside, the ship shuddering under the weight of the waves crashing against it. Jake's heart sank as he glanced back at the captain's chair, the cold specter of death lingering in the air. "Where do we take him?" Chuck asked. "What do we do now?" "Put him in the hold," the captain ordered curtly. "Seal the door. No one speaks of this, understand?" A chorus of uneasy murmurs filled the air, the crew now shackled to their silence. Staring into the emptiness where Tom had sat, Jake felt the creeping chill of suspicion weaving through the crew. Whatever had taken Tom could be lingering in the shadows, waiting for the next wrongful step. "Let us move." The captain's dismissal shattered their moment of hesitation. They obeyed, each man wrestling with their own fear, thoughts spiraling into a maze of uncertainty. What would happen next? Jake tried to shake the feeling of being watched, as if something dark in the depths of the sea was aware of their every move. As they secured the hold door, thuds echoed across the ship, not from the storm, but something else, a response, a rustling lurking beyond the shadows, something they weren't meant to find. "What was that?" Mikey whispered, panic rising in his voice. Jake felt the hairs on his neck stand up. They had disturbed the dark, and it would not go unanswered. Who or what had caused Tom's fate? And what awaited them now that they had chosen to confront it? The hold was cold and suffocating, an eerie silence crowding in now that Tom's body had been sealed away. Jake lingered near the door, heart racing, brain swirling with confusion and dread. He couldn't shake the horrible image of Tom's lifeless face, eyes wide open, staring into a void. "Did you hear that?" Mikey's voice trembled, cutting through the oppressive quiet. Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah. It's not the storm." The sounds had crawled under their skins, a crumpling, a scratching, almost like nails on steel. Jake's mind wheeled, something more than the storm was at play, and it had a sinister grip on the ship. "Captain!" Chuck called suddenly, his voice an anxious tremor. "What do we do now?" The captain stood with an iron expression, defiance etched deep across his brow. "We stay alert. We're not leaving this ship inside that hold." "Leave Tom with whatever that is?" Mikey interjected, dread lacing each syllable. "What if it comes for us?" The captain stepped toward him, invading his space. "You need to focus, not dwell on ghosts. Keep your eyes open and follow orders." Jake felt the pressure in the air shift, thickening with unspoken fear. They were trapped in a tempest, surrounded by chaos and uncertainty. All at once, Jake's thoughts flashed back to the note. They only pushed it aside without a second look. "Captain," Jake blurted out, gaining the sudden bravery that flickered like a candle fighting against the wind. "What if the note has something that can help us?" The captain's glare turned on him like a spotlight. "What did I say about that note?" His voice held an edge, a tightness that suggested darker secrets beneath the surface. What if we need it?" A storm of emotions battered Jake's heart as he dared to meet the captain's fierce stare. The crew held their breath, the weight of their choices pressing down on them like water filling a sinking ship. "Fine." The captain's voice boomed, cutting through their collective tension. "But if it's worthless, it could also save our lives." Jake held firm, emboldened by something unnameable stirring within. With a reluctant nod, the captain advanced back toward the control panel. "All right. But we do this quickly. And no one gets too close. Understand?" Jake's pulse raced as he drew near to the control panel, closest to where the note lay crumpled and forgotten. He snatched it up, quickly unfolding it even as the weight of all those pairs of eyes rested upon him. Words scratched out across the page, each word invoking a chill that danced along his spine. "The truth is buried beneath the floor. I'm scared. I hear it whispering to me." "Scared?" Chuck echoed, his voice a ghost of itself. "What did Tom find?" "We need to see what he meant by beneath the floor," Mikey whispered, a flicker of dread in his eyes. "Absolutely not," the captain barked, fists tightening at his sides. If there is something, it's south not our place. A sudden crash interrupted, sending vibrations through the hull. They all jumped, adrenaline bursting through their veins as the shadows danced whimsically with the flashing lights. The sound had come from the hold. What the hell was that? The stricken tone in Mikey's voice made Jake freeze. Another crash reverberated. The ship shuddered once more, like a living creature in agony or in anger. Whatever lay behind that door was no longer idle, it was waking. Get ready! The captain shouted, a command that whipped through the air with urgency. We need to see what is going on. Jake's stomach churned, dread pooling in the pit of his gut. They had disturbed something deep in the depths of the ship and now it was clawing its way back to them. As they gathered near the door, the scratching grew louder, more frantic, almost like desperate hands trying to break through. What horror awaited them just beyond? What secrets did the ship hold, and would they survive to tell the tale? The tension in the room cracked like ice underfoot. Jake could feel his breaths growing shallower, the air thick with anxiety. They stood frozen, huddled together like a pack of hunted animals, just waiting for the next noise that could shatter their fragile calm. The scratching intensified, turning into a frantic thumping. It wasn't just the sound of nails anymore, it felt more like something was slamming against whatever barrier held it back. The wooden door seemed to pulse in time, pounding against the frame as if it, too, were alive. Open it! Chuck exclaimed, his voice shaky with fear. We can't just stand here. Are you out of your mind? The captain barked, his voice low but fierce. Whatever's in there is not our friend. The words hung in the air, each syllable a dire warning. But Jake felt an electric pull toward the door. Tom's words flashed like neon in his mind, the truth is buried beneath the floor. What if this was his chance to understand what had happened? Captain, he started, his voice barely a whisper, what if we need to confront it? Whatever it is. The captain's stony expression flickered, almost breaking into uncertainty, but he quickly masked it. And what if we don't make it back? Another violent smash echoed, a sound that felt almost like it had teeth. Jake's heart thundered, drowning out the reason in his head. His legs moved before he could think it through. He stepped forward, the others gasping as he turned the handle. The creaking door reluctantly gave way, revealing darkness that swallowed the dim light surrounding them. A thick, acrid smell spilled through the gap, a mix of damp wood and something else rot. Jake! Mikey's voice rang out, a plea layered with panic. Get back! You don't know what's on the other side. But Jake couldn't stop. He pushed the door fully open. The hold was an abyss, filled only with shadows and echoes. Instinctively, he reached for the flashlight on his belt, flicking it on. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating cluttered crates and ominous shapes that wove dark stories in the muted light. The scratches had stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that thrummed. He saw movement, a shudder in the corner of the room, where shadows seemed to sway and coalesce, twisting like smoke. Get back! The captain yelled again, but Jake couldn't help himself. He stepped inside, rushing footsteps followed. Mikey was right behind him, and soon Chuck joined, his breath ragged with fear. The flashlight beam scanned the room, illuminating an array of old barrels and distorted shapes that leered at them through the flickering light. But that wasn't all he saw. There was something darker hidden beneath the dust-cloaked floorboards. Look! Jake pointed, breath hitching in his throat. A simple panel was misplaced, a sliver of light seeping in from beneath. Who put that there? Chuck whispered, eyes wide, searching the room like a hunted deer. It's just a trapdoor, the captain muttered. Nothing but what we let dwell here, our own demons. But Jake knew. They couldn't leave it like this. Whatever lay beneath needed to be unearthed. The ship had been whispering its secrets to Tom, including the truth he couldn't reach. As his hands gripped the edges of the panel, he felt the others' anxious presence hovering behind him, their breaths mingling in the stale air. With a swift heave, Jake pulled the panel back, revealing what he feared yet craved to know, a dark abyss stretching below, shadows swirling as though anticipating their descent. What flickered in the depths? A dark thrill surged through him. Secrets had a way of being awakened, particularly in moments just like this. Jake. The captain's voice exploded through the air, pulling him from the edge, but it was too late. The ship shuddered violently, as if reacting to their act of defiance, and the darkness below surged upward, hungry for flesh and fury. Would they dare plunge into the depths and unearth the truth? A deafening roar erupted from the depths below, consuming the air around them in a rush of icy dread. The room trembled as if the very bones of the ship were rattling in anger. Jake's heart raced, caught in a storm of panic and exhilaration, his pulse thrumming in his ears. "Mikey, hold the door!" Chuck shouted, lunging toward the panel that Jake had just yanked open. But instead of affordability, the panel splintered in a violent quake, sending them reeling back. The darkness pooled up like oil, swirling and writhing, and the air filled with an acrid, burning scent that clawed at their throats. Each breath felt like it might be their last. "Get out! Get out!" The captain's voice cut through the cacophony. He pushed through the doorway, shoving Mikey aside. "We have to leave now." But Jake, rooted in place, felt the pull of the abyss stronger than the pull of fear. "Wait! There's something down there." His flashlight flickered against the swirling void, illuminating glinting eyes that lingered in the shadows, blinking back at him. "Those aren't just shadows." Chuck gasped, stumbling backward. "We're not alone." Suddenly, the lights above them flickered, sputtering like a dying candle, casting them into flashes of blinding white before plunging them back into darkness. In those fleeting moments, Jake could see what glinted beneath the surface, a mass of tarnished metal scraps, their shapes slightly familiar. "Is that?" Jake whispered, realization dawning as the darkness flared bright enough to reveal marred insignias from ships long missing, swallowed by the sea. "Get back, now!" The captain's fury clashed with their curiosity as he lunged again for Jake, but the pull of the darkness tightened its grip. A screech echoed, growing louder and more distinct, drowning out their shouts. It sounded like metal scraping against metal, claws twisting and contorting. Fear burned through them, igniting the air around them. "Jake!" Mikey shouted, voice trembling with urgency. "If you don't run, we'll never get out." But all Jake could see were flashes of ghostly faces appearing within the shadows, lost and lingering in anguish, their eyes pleading for him. Each flicker pressed against his soul, an invitation to come closer, to uncover what tragic tale they had left behind. With a growl of his own terror, the captain lunged again, grabbing Jake's arm. The grip was iron. "We're leaving. Now!" The roar from the void became 1,000 voices, screeching with a fury that rattled his bones. With every shudder of the ship, more debris broke free in a shower of splinters and dust, swirling around them. In the sheer chaos, a drowning sensation hit Jake. "The truth, we have to find the truth." He wrenched himself away and stumbled back toward the flashlight beam, desperate now. "Maybe we can help them." "Help who?" Chuck's voice cut through the turmoil. "They're dead. Whatever that is, it's not asking for help." With a fierce yank, the captain pulled him out of the doorway, but not before Jake caught a final glimpse of the darkness expanding, a vortex of despair and tragedy. He felt the cold fingers of lost souls raking at him from below, desperate to pull him down with them. As they stumbled backward, the floorboards cracked ominously beneath them. It was now or never. Eyes wide with fear, they turned to face the captain, whose expression had hardened, determination mixing with dread. "Back to the galley," he ordered, his voice booming over the monstrous roar receding momentarily. "Now. We need a plan." The stakes were higher than ever. There was a cost to the truth waiting for them beneath the floor. An unearthly challenge loomed larger, demanding their next move. Would they dare return to face what lurked below? And within the shadows, a single whisper rose amidst the clamor, echoing through time, "Don't stop now." What had they just released? The galley was dimly lit, the emergency lights flickering, casting eerie shadows that twisted and crept along the walls. It smelled of stale coffee and metallic tang, a reminder of their earlier hours. As they burst in, the captain slammed the door shut, collapsing against it, panting heavily. "Get the lights on," he barked, voice strained. Mikey scrambled to the switch on the wall, his fingers shaking as he flipped it. Nothing happened. The generator had seized, prey to the storm brewing deeper within the ship. Jake's eyes darted around the room, scanning the faces of his friends. Chuck was pale, his breaths short and rapid. "Did you hear that?" Chuck whispered, voice trembling. "What?" The captain snapped, annoyance mixing with fear. But in that moment of tension, they all recognized the low, rumbling growl reverberating through the ship, signaling that the thing in the dark was scratching and clawing its way toward them. Those eyes," Jake stammered, still haunted by the memory. "It's like they knew me." "Stop it!" Mikey yelled, his voice cracking. "We need to figure out how to get out of this nightmare, not dive into it. We have to leave now." "A minute." Jake shot back, desperation bubbling over. "If we don't understand what's down there, how do we know we won't just end up like the others?" "Others? What others?" The captain's voice held a warning, though deep down, he knew the answer they all feared. Jake pointed back towards the door. "The lost ships, the souls. There was history, pain, maybe something we can save, or at least understand." The roar answered him, louder now, vibrating the metal around them. It felt alive, as if the ship itself was aware and in agony. The walls shuddered, resonating with hidden memories, and with each tremor, Jake sensed something shifting beneath the surface. "It's a trap," the captain shouted. "Those souls. They're not waiting for salvation. They want to drag us into their abyss." "No," Jake argued, his heart pounding harder. "What if they only need someone to see them? I don't know, hear their story?" The captain stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "And what if they want revenge?" Before Jake could respond, something slammed against the door, forcing them all backward. The sound echoed like thunder, filled with rage and hunger. The handle rattled violently, as if a force on the other side was testing its strength. "Fight or flight?" Chuck screamed, panic rising. "What do we do?" "We find a weapon," the captain yelled, turning to the galley storage. "If that thing gets through," a sharp squawk erupted from a nearby vent, drawing attention. Cold air rushed against their skin, a shiver crawling down Jake's spine as an unsettling chuckle crept into the confusion. "What was that?" Mikey gasped, eyes wide, lips trembling. "I don't know. But we're not safe here," Chuck replied, backing away from the vent as if it might reach out and snatch him. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and in that bright flash, a shadow loomed at the doorway. It wasn't a singular form but a mass of twisting darkness, arms extended, faces contorted in anguish. "Jake!" the captain shouted, panic bubbling in his voice. "We have to move. Now." With the whirling chaos closing in, Jake felt a burning resolve grip him. He wouldn't leave them behind without answers. Heart racing, he stepped closer to the mass, ready to face whatever haunted those depths. "Wait. I can," but before he could finish, the light flickered one last time. The shadow rushed forward, consuming everything in a suffocating blackness. Jake's scream echoed, fading as they were swallowed whole, and as everything turned dark, the last thing Jake heard was a chilling whisper, "You're just like us." What had they awakened? The darkness closed in, thick like tar. Jake scrambled, but it felt like he was dragging through molasses. No light, no sound, only a suffocating pressure that crushed his senses. His mind buzzed with dread. He tried to step forward, but instead, he tumbled, hitting the cold, hard floor. "Jake!" Chuck's voice sliced through the void, a thin string tethering them in this nightmare. "Here!" he gasped, clawing through the blackness. "I'm okay." A faint shimmer broke through the darkness, just enough for him to see Chuck's silhouette, crouched close, eyes wide with panic. What happened? Mikey's voice trembled, each word heavy with fear. I don't know. Jake shouted, struggling to his feet. We need to find the others. The growling had subsided but echoed faintly in the background, almost mocking them. With adrenaline pumping, Jake focused hard, forcing his eyes to adjust to the dim light. He could see a flickering coming from a vent near the ground, where a strange, pulsating glow seeped through the grates. Mikey! Over here! Jake pointed. The three of them huddled around the vent. Whatever source of light that flickered there also radiated a strange, chilling warmth. What do you think it is? Chuck whispered, eyes darting as if the shadows might leap out. I don't know, but we can't just wait here, the captain's voice punctuated the tension, coming from further away. We have to keep moving. Jake recognized the authority in the captain's tone but also sensed the underlying fear. Captain! Where are you? We're at the aft storage. His voice echoed down a corridor, slightly strained but still commanding. Let us go. Mikey urged. Together, they turned towards the faint glimmer, crawling through the tight space as the walls felt like they were closing in. Each shake of the ship sent tremors through their spine, reminding them that something terrible lurked above. As they rounded a corner, the darkness shifted, making Jake's heart race. In the dim light from the vent, he saw twisted shapes moving above them, faces pressed against the metal like the distorted remnants of souls desperate to be free. Chilling screams echoed, but they were muffled, unclear prisoners in a void. Did you see that? Chuck gasped, backing away. It can't be real, Mikey mumbled, shaking his head violently. It can't. But Jake felt a strange pull toward the sight. They're trying to tell us something, he murmured, haunted by the desperation in those twisted faces. We can't listen to them. The captain's voice cut through the haze, sharp as glass. They will try to lure us. We need to focus on getting out. But Jake stood frozen, staring at the terror he was beginning to empathize with. What if they only want us to understand? He whispered, what if they're lost? The growling surged again, this time accompanied by a guttural laughter that reverberated through the metal walls, pulling at their sanity. Panic washed over Jake like icy water, snapping him back to reality. Jake, move. Mikey pulled at him, urgency etched on his face. With a force of will, he broke away from that entrancing horror. But that seed of understanding had sprouted in his mind. What if by rejecting their fears, they would awaken the torment within? Captain! We're coming! He shouted, adrenaline sharpening his senses as they pressed forward, the growl now echoing through alternate realities. Just as they reached the doorway to the storage room, another crash erupted just behind them. It sent shockwaves through the ship, and the lights flickered violently, painting frantic shadows into the space. In that critical moment, Jake felt the weight of their choices pressing down. They could flee or they could confront whatever had been unleashed. His decision now hinged on whether they could trust the darkness to guide them or if it would consume them whole. Look! Chuck's voice trembled as he pointed toward the horizon beyond the door, where glimmers of ghostly figures lingered at the edges of vision. Before Jake could respond, a thunderous roar delivered a harrowing proclamation from the depths. And with that, they stepped through the door, ready to meet the truth, but there, hidden in the shadows, another whisper harbored a chilling revelation: you'll never escape what awaited them on the other side. As they stepped through the door, Jake's heart raced. The storage room was a transformed landscape, illuminated by a pulsating glow that came from deep shadows. Shelves lined with crates towered like grotesque sentinels, casting jagged silhouettes that danced along the walls in the flickering light. It felt like a scene from a nightmare, twisting the ordinary into the grotesque. What is this place? Mikey whispered, wide-eyed, scanning the shadows that seemed alive with malevolence. Before Jake could respond, the heavy metal door slammed shut behind them with a deafening clang. Jake spun around, dread clawing at his throat. They were trapped. Captain! He shouted, panic seeping into his voice. We need to find him. But there was no response, only a chill that settled around them, creeping like fingers along their skin. The growling had grown louder, reverberating through the metal structure, filled with an unsettling rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing in the void. "Jake, look!" Chuck pointed toward a darkened corner. Shapes moved elongated and shifting, swathed in shadows. The pulsating glow illuminated them enough to reveal that these figures were not solid, they flickered in and out of focus like a torn piece of film struggling to stay in place. "Are they the others?" Mikey asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, the faces materialized, their features crying out in silent agony. It was as if the spirits of those lost at sea had found refuge here, lingering just beyond their reach. Jake's breath hitched. He could see the expressions, the desperation etched into the ethereal visages straining against the darkness. "Don't look at them," Chuck hissed as he grabbed Jake's arm, pulling him away. "They'll drag us down with them." But Jake could feel it, some kind of connection. Their pain echoed within him, whispering secrets he could barely comprehend. What happened to these people? Why were they trapped here? Every instinct told him to flee, but a deep-seated urge compelled him to stay and listen. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from behind a stack of crates, followed by a guttural roar that pierced the tension like a knife. "Did you hear that?" Mikey exclaimed, eyes darting around frantically. "Shoo!" Jake pressed a finger to his lips, trying to focus. The growling had morphed into something more sinister, looming closer. Footsteps thundered, heavy and deliberate, reverberating against the metal floor. A shadow loomed large, backlit by the eerie glow. It grew closer, blotting out the flickering light. Jake's breath quickened again, fear knotting in his stomach. He caught a glimpse of a monstrous figure, blistered skin, elongated limbs, and eyes that burned with an unholy fire. "Run!" Chuck yelled, breaking into a sprint, pulling Mikey with him. Jake hesitated just a moment longer, fixated on the glowing figures. They seemed to pulsate with urgency. "We can't leave them," he shouted, torn between escape and empathy. "Jake!" Mikey screamed, heart pounding as he turned back, desperation etched across his face. "We have to go." With that command, the spell broke. He knew they couldn't save everyone, not here, not now. But how could they abandon those who had once been alive and breathing? Jake spun around, darting after his friends. They raced down the aisle, the once familiar cargo room warped into a menacing labyrinth of shadows. The growls intensified, a chaotic symphony of terror that urged them to run faster. They skidded to a halt at the doorway leading to another corridor. What lay beyond that threshold? With the thunderous snarling behind them like a predator stalking its prey, Jake felt that choice again, a haunting echo of their previous decision. Do we go back to find the captain or push forward? Mikey panted, sweat trickling down his brow. We can't hide. Jake replied, urgency surging through him. We face this. With no time to waste, they pushed through. The corridor ahead stretched into darkness, and twisted whispers echoed eerily, "You'll never escape." But deep inside, Jake couldn't shake the feeling they were moving toward something that would change everything. Just what awaited them in the shadows? As the growling faded behind them, one harrowing truth settled in: would they be too late to save the captain? And would confronting the darkness lead them to salvation or doom? The darkness pressed in, thick like fog, as Jake, Mikey, and Chuck stumbled down the twisting corridor, breaths quick and labored. Fear clung to them, a suffocating blanket, as shadows whispered promises of despair. We can't look back, Jake murmured, fighting to keep his voice steady. We have to find the captain. The words felt hollow, but the urgency surged through him like electricity, pushing him onward. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed behind them, rattling the very bones of the ship. It shook the floor beneath their feet, sending a tremor of dread through Jake's legs. What was that? Mikey cried, eyes wide with panic. Jake felt a shiver race up his spine. Whatever's here, it's angry. The growling echoed again, a low, menacing drone that vibrated through the steel hull, reverberating in their bones. they pressed on, adrenaline fueling their flight. Anxious whispers danced around them, shadows mocking their every step. "It sounds like it's getting closer." Chuck wheezed, urgency in his tone. Jake nodded, urging them to move faster. They were deeper in the bowels of the ship now, surrounded by darkness that felt almost alive. Then, ahead, a dim light flickered to life. The soft glow spilled from an open hatch at the end of the corridor, illuminating a small room cluttered with old equipment and cargo. "Is that?" Mikey started, hope almost escaping. "It has to be the bridge." They raced toward the light, hearts thudding in unison. As they entered, the sight broke the tension. A familiar shape hunched over the control panel. The captain was there, his brow furrowed in concentration, hands flying as he adjusted knobs and levers desperately. "Captain!" Jake shouted. The captain looked up, a flash of relief crossing his face, but it vanished in an instant, replaced by a fierce urgency. "You shouldn't be here. We need to leave." "Why?" Jake pressed, bewildered. "What is happening?" The captain's eyes diverted to the dark corners of the room. "We've awakened something," he whispered harshly. "And it's not willing to let us go." The growl echoed again, deep and primal, sending ripples of fear through them. "Then we fight," Jake declared, firming his resolve. "We can't just run. If it's a fight, then let us face it head on." The captain glanced between the three of them, uncertainty etched on his face. "You don't understand." "Yes, we do." Chuck replied, voice steady, courage igniting. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about Tom and everyone else." Jake felt a flicker of hope igniting inside him. "We found a note. It said the truth is buried beneath the floor. We have to confront whatever it is. We can't keep running. You don't know what you're offering up." The captain shot back, outraged. "Maybe we do," Mikey added quickly. "We can't let whatever this is keep dragging innocent lives into the dark." The growl surged louder, a furious roar that vibrated through the compartment, shaking the very structure. The captain's face paled as the walls trembled. Without warning, the air shifted, and the door slammed open with a bang, dark figures swirling in from the corridor, tortured souls from the depths, wailing, voices laced with anger and despair. The captain swore, but fear surged through Jake. "Together!" he shouted. "If we face it together, we can do this." With that, Jake grasped a fire extinguisher from the wall, ready to use it as a weapon. The others rallied beside him, adrenaline racing and bodies vibrating with determination. The figures approached, flickering between anger and sorrow, reaching towards them with ghostly hands. They were lost but filled with purpose. Jake's heart raced, return their stories. "We're here. We will listen." He shouted, and his voice rang loud, powerful amid the chaos. As if summoned, Tom's ghostly figure emerged from the fray, his face a mask of haunting sadness. "You sought the truth," he whispered. "You must confront it." The swirling darkness writhed, but Jake felt a strange connection to it, as if it wanted to be understood. The growls softened, the malignancy swirling around them, but the threat hung in the air like a thick fog. "Tell us!" Jake cried out, feeling bravery surge stronger than fear. "What do you want?" Tom stepped closer, his eyes holding an abyss of sorrow yet a flicker of hope. "You need to face the truth of those lost, be the voice they can no longer carry." The captain's hand tightened on the panel, fear wrestled with something unexpected within him. "What if we lose ourselves in doing so?" "Maybe," Jake breathed. "But we have to try." With their resolve firm, they faced the tide of anguished spirits, together. The growls faded into a chorus of whispers, stories yearning to break free. "We hear you," Jake shouted. "We will remember." The darkness coiled around them, but instead of fear, they stood firm. The air pulsed with energy, each soul's pain tugging on their hearts but also lighting them up with clarity. The storm of despair swirled into focus, they could see the remnants of long-lost stories suppressed by time, trapped by tragedy. As the growl dwindled, the chamber felt lighter. Once tortured souls began to calm, their faces softening, glowing with something akin to peace. Jake grasped the power of connection, the truth waiting in whispers, the lives lived in anguish, finally satiated with acknowledgement. And then, with a great shudder, the ship released a guttural sigh, a release long overdue. In that moment, they were transformed by courage, facing not just the darkness of the ship but the shadows that loomed within themselves. Jake stood tall, spirit wild and free, while Tom's figure melted into light, his story finally told. "You have done well," came a whisper from the void, a gentle breeze in aftermath darkness. Surprisingly, it felt comforting rather than terrifying. With the echoes of lost souls receding, the crew emerged soulful, but transformed. The storm outside gradually quieted as if the sea, too, received a calm. They stepped away from the panel, hearts still racing, but the shadows no longer haunted them. They had become the voices of those below, and the haunting silence left behind. Jake turned to Mikey and Chuck, their eyes mirrored an understanding that was shared among survivors of a trial. "What about the next storm?" Chuck asked, hope threading through his voice. "We'll face it together," Jake said, and as they took resolute steps back toward the bridge, he promised silently to carry those lost in his heart. "We'll always face it together." And with the dawning light breaking across the horizon, illuminating their path ahead, they knew they had finally released the ship's chilling grip on their lives. If you felt the incredible journey from darkness to light, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together we'll continue the adventure.